the woman pounding on my door at 6 a.m. wasn't selling cookies. She was holding her phone, 911 already dialed, her voice a ragged shriek claiming my wife was a criminal trespasser for moving into our own house. I stood there, wrapped in my bathrobe, a cloud of steam rising from my coffee mug into the cold morning air, staring at this red-faced zealot. She was shaking with pure, unadulterated fury because my wife, Anya, had the sheer audacity to park her sedan in our driveway overnight. This HOA tyrant, let's call her Beatrice, was demanding that the police arrest Anya for the heinous crime of existing in her own home. But here's the thing about neighborhood bullies, they always, without fail, pick the wrong target eventually. Because just 20 minutes after Beatrice made that 911 call, she'd be holding a very different set of papers with her name on them, eviction papers. Let me rewind and tell you how we arrived at this moment of pure, unhinged chaos. My name is Alistair. I'm 45, an industrial maintenance supervisor, the kind of guy who pays his bills early, keeps his lawn immaculately trimmed, and minds his own business. 3 years ago, I bought this house in Willowbrook Commons for $295,000, a decent, middle-class neighborhood with an HOA that charges $180 a month. 6 months ago, I married Anya, a 38-year-old pediatric ICU nurse who spends her life saving children. This past weekend was her official move-in day. Saturday morning, she was just starting to unload boxes from her Honda Civic when the trouble arrived, dressed in a sharp pantsuit and clutching a clipboard like a scepter. Enter Beatrice Kensington, 58 years old, a 4-year veteran as HOA president, and the kind of person who keeps a ruler in her purse to measure grass heights. Within 20 minutes of Anya pulling into our driveway, Beatrice was marching over as if responding to a 5-alarm fire. "Excuse me," Beatrice announced, her pen poised like a weapon. "We have overnight parking violations here." She glared at Anya's Civic as if it were a rusted-out wreck. "Multiple vehicles per household require board approval. And that commercial equipment violates our residential-only bylaws." Commercial equipment. It was Anya's medical bag, stethoscope, and blood pressure cuff, clearly visible through the rear window, the tools she uses to keep children breathing at the hospital. But Beatrice was already scribbling a $150 fine. I stepped outside, holding our marriage certificate and the property deed, both documents clearly showing Anya's name alongside mine. "She's my wife, Beatrice. She lives here now." Beatrice barely glanced at the papers. "Doesn't matter. Rules are rules." She slapped the fine on Anya's windshield. "Some people think rules don't apply to them." That's when I noticed the expression on Anya's face, hurt and confused, as if she'd been physically slapped. This woman was treating my wife like a criminal for simply existing in her own home. Anya was holding a box of nursing textbooks, still wearing her hospital ID badge from a shift the night before, where she'd been saving premature babies. But Beatrice wasn't done. "I'll be filing a formal complaint with county code enforcement about this boarding house situation," she announced, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "And I'm very concerned about all this suspicious medical equipment." Suspicious medical equipment. As if Anya were running a meth lab, not carrying the tools that literally restart children's hearts. That evening, Anya sat at our kitchen table, still in her scrubs after a grueling 12-hour shift in the pediatric ICU. "Maybe we should just pay the fine," she said quietly. "I don't want to cause problems." Here was this incredible woman who fights death every day to save other people's children, worried about causing problems because some power-drunk retiree decided she didn't belong here. "We're not paying that fine," I told her. "And we are definitely not letting her run us out of our own home." 3 days later, there was a knock at the door. Code enforcement, responding to Beatrice's complaint about illegal boarding house operations. The inspector took one look at our perfectly normal home, 2 bedrooms, 1 couple, 0 boarders, and shook his head. "Someone filed a complaint claiming you're running an unlicensed medical facility. Whoever called this in wasted everyone's time." But Beatrice was just getting started. Anya came home from her shift looking devastated. "Someone called the hospital," she told me. "They claimed I was using hospital equipment for unauthorized purposes and questioned my professional conduct." The hospital had laughed it off. Anya is one of their best nurses. But the fact that someone had tried to sabotage her career made my hands shake with rage. Then the anonymous notes started appearing. "Tuesday morning, a folded paper under our windshield wiper, keep our neighborhood family friendly." Wednesday, another one, some people don't belong here. Thursday brought the final straw. Anya walked out to her car and froze. Someone had keyed a long, jagged scratch down the passenger side, the raw metal gleaming through the blue paint like an angry scar. She stood there, shoulders sagging with defeat, and something inside me snapped. That evening, I did what I should have done from the beginning. I actually read our HOA bylaws. All 47 pages of mind-numbing legal text. My dad always told me, son, when someone's playing games with rules, you learn the rules better than they do. Turns out Dad was right. Beatrice had been playing fast and loose with those very same rules. First violation, her fence. The bylaws clearly stated a maximum height of 6 feet. Beatrice's backyard fence measured 6 feet, 8 inches. Second violation, that gorgeous deck addition she was so proud of. No permit on file. Improvements over $5,000 required board approval. Her deck cost at least $15,000. But here was the beautiful part, HOA enforcement must be consistent and equitable. You can't selectively enforce rules against some people while ignoring violations by others. I filed formal complaints against Beatrice with the HOA board, including photos of her violations and a detailed timeline of her harassment campaign against Anya. I also requested an emergency board meeting. Monday evening, the emergency board meeting convened. Beatrice showed up, fully expecting to railroad some new motion against us. Instead, she walked into a room where I was sitting with a folder full of evidence. Before we discuss any alleged violations involving my family, I announced, I'd like to address some actual violations that need immediate attention. I slid copies across the table. We have some serious consistency issues with enforcement in this community. Beatrice's face went through several interesting color changes as board members reviewed the photos. This is ridiculous, she sputtered. Alistair is just trying to deflect by making frivolous complaints. Are you saying the tape measure is lying? I asked calmly. Or that the county building permits office is wrong about your deck addition? The room filled with uncomfortable silence as board members started asking Beatrice pointed questions about when she was planning to address her own violations. This meeting is over, Beatrice declared, grabbing her papers. Actually, I called after her, according to the bylaws, meetings can only be adjourned by a majority vote. She stormed out, her car doors slamming hard enough to rattle windows. If I thought simply embarrassing Beatrice would make her back down, I seriously underestimated her fury. The next morning, an unfamiliar car was parked across the street, with a guy and a camera inside. Beatrice had hired a private investigator. Wednesday, someone filed another complaint, claiming Anya was mentally unstable and involved in disputes affecting her professional judgment. Thursday brought a city planning inspector responding to claims we were operating a medical practice from home. That's when I called a property management attorney who specialized in HOA disputes. When HOA enforcement becomes selective and harassing, she told me, it creates legal liability. You might want to request copies of all HOA financial records. People who abuse power often have something to hide in the books. I submitted a formal records request. Beatrice's sudden concern about protecting sensitive information told me everything I needed to know. Meanwhile, the private investigator continued his surveillance. By Thursday, Anya had enough. She walked straight up to his car, knocked on the window, and asked if he'd like her autograph since he seemed so interested in photographing her. I spent Saturday morning diving deep into the financial records Beatrice finally had to release. That's when we found it, buried in the expense reports like a needle in a haystack. Every landscaping contract for the past 2 years went to Kensington Gardens LLC, a company sharing Beatrice's last name, with her husband listed as the registered agent. The payments totaled $47,000 for work our neighborhood definitely didn't receive. No competitive bidding, no board approval, no business license, just Beatrice writing checks from community funds to her family's business. Each household was overcharged roughly $400 per year to fund Beatrice's personal landscaping company. Anya noticed the dates of the largest payments coincided with Beatrice's most aggressive enforcement actions. Every time someone challenged her authority, mysterious emergency landscaping bills appeared within weeks. Monday morning, I was in Attorney Martinez's office, watching her review our evidence. This is textbook self-dealing, she said. Beatrice faces potential criminal charges for theft, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. A conservative estimate is she owes the community $50,000 minimum. The strategy crystallized. We would file formal demand letters requiring restitution and Beatrice's resignation. If she refused, we would proceed with criminal referrals and present the evidence to the entire community. I spent Tuesday evening mapping out our battle plan. The first call went to Tom Martinez, my retired accountant neighbor, who created a presentation showing the $47,000 theft. Anya organized documentation with systematic precision. Wednesday brought reporter Sarah Chen, hungry for a municipal corruption story. Thursday evening, Detective Walsh reviewed our evidence. False police reports are typically misdemeanors, he explained. But when they're part of systematic witness intimidation, that escalates to felony territory. We invited every household personally rather than relying on Beatrice's notices. By Sunday, we had confirmed attendance from 28 of 31 households. Tom's PowerPoint presentation would have made corporate executives weep. Monday arrived with the largest HOA meeting in recorded history. 28 households represented. Sarah Chen was positioned with her camera. Detective Walsh was wearing his badge. Beatrice strutted in fashionably late, bringing her husband Frank and 2 supporters. Before we begin tonight's meeting, Beatrice announced, "I want to address malicious rumors being spread by certain residents." Point of order, Tom Martinez interrupted. According to the bylaws, the first order of business must be financial reporting. Everyone here is very interested in reviewing our expenditures. The projector screen filled with spreadsheets showing the $47,000 in payments to Kensington Gardens LLC. The room fell silent except for the sound of collective jaws hitting the floor. "Holy crap," whispered Jim Patterson. "She's been stealing from us for years." Beatrice attempted damage control. "This is completely out of order. These documents are private HOA business." "Actually," Detective Walsh said, standing and letting his badge catch the light, "when financial irregularities suggest criminal activity, these documents become evidence. Ma'am, you might want to remain silent until you consult legal counsel." Anya addressed the room, describing the harassment campaign methodically. The formal votes came swiftly. Motion to remove Beatrice as HOA president, 27 in favor, 3 opposed. Motion to demand full financial restitution, unanimous except for Beatrice's faction. Motion to ban Kensington Gardens LLC from future contracts passed with a triumphant cheer. As Beatrice stormed toward the exit, Tom delivered the final blow. "Oh, and Beatrice, the lien paperwork will be served tomorrow morning. You might want to start packing." The next morning, Beatrice was pounding on our door, clutching a manila envelope. "Alistair," she shouted. "I have legal papers that are going to end this harassment campaign once and for all." I opened the door with my coffee mug in hand, Anya beside me in her scrubs. "Good morning, Beatrice. What brings you here so early?" "I'm filing an injunction to stop your defamatory harassment campaign," she announced, waving the envelope. "Last night was nothing but a coordinated attack designed to destroy my reputation with lies." That's when I smiled. "Honey, can you bring those papers we've been waiting to deliver?" Anya returned with a thick legal envelope radiating official authority. "Beatrice Kensington," I announced loudly enough for the gathering neighbors to hear, "you're being served." Beatrice's hands shook as she ripped open the envelope. "What is this?" "Property lien for fraudulent financial transfers," Anya explained professionally. "Plus criminal referrals for theft, harassment, and filing false police reports. You taught us that some people think rules don't apply to them." Detective Walsh's patrol car pulled into our driveway, followed by Sarah Chen's Honda with her press credentials. Walsh stepped out in uniform, wearing the satisfied expression of someone who gets to arrest the neighborhood bully instead of responding to her false complaints. "Mrs. Kensington," Walsh announced, "you're under arrest for filing false police reports, criminal harassment, and destruction of personal property." The handcuffs caught the morning sunlight as he began reading the Miranda rights to a woman who had spent months trying to have my wife arrested for living in her own home. Sarah Chen's camera captured everything as Tom Martinez started applauding, a sound that caught on until half the neighborhood was clapping for justice being served with their morning coffee. "This is harassment," Beatrice shrieked as Walsh guided her toward the patrol car. "You're all going to pay for this." "Ma'am," Walsh interrupted gently. "You have the right to remain silent. I'd recommend using it." As the patrol car drove away, I addressed the gathered neighbors. This is what happens when communities work together. Bullies only win when good people stay silent. Anya stepped forward. Now, let's make this neighborhood somewhere everyone truly belongs. 6 months later, I'm watching Anya organize our first annual Community Accountability Day celebration. The legal resolution came swiftly. Beatrice pleaded guilty, paying full restitution of $47,000 plus penalties totaling $65,000. Her house sold within 30 days. Anya received a hospital commendation for maintaining professional excellence under extraordinary stress. The recovered funds established the Anya Martinez Nursing Scholarship for pediatric nursing students and built a playground with equipment for children with disabilities. Tom Martinez became our new HOA president by unanimous vote, implementing monthly financial reports and a zero-tolerance policy for shenanigans. Our story inspired statewide legislation requiring annual independent audits for HOA organizations, informally known as the Beatrice Prevention Act. Property values increased 12% as word spread about a neighborhood that stands up to bullies and protects its vulnerable members. Tonight, as children play on swings funded by recovered stolen money while their parents share stories, Detective Walsh stops by in civilian clothes. "Best arrest I ever made," he tells Anya. "Usually, we arrest people who hurt communities. That time, I got to arrest someone who was the community's biggest problem." Anya squeezes my hand as we watch our neighbors helping each other. "You know what the best part is?" she asks. Beatrice was right about one thing. Some people really do think rules don't apply to them. She just never realized she was describing herself. Beatrice spent years trying to make this neighborhood conform to her narrow vision of control. Instead, she accidentally created something much better, a real community built on mutual respect, transparency, and the radical idea that everyone deserves to feel safe in their own home. What would you do if you faced an HOA Karen trying to drive you from your own home? Share your neighborhood nightmare stories in the comments below. And remember, bullies only win when good people stay silent. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be quiet.